to be in Vienna or something.
All right, Grasshoppers, it's 2 o'clock. We're going live. Just showing us pictures of Dave. Of Dave, which is
that picture's only for the three of us, not for anybody else.
Right, we won't talk about that publicly. It's a great picture of Dave in action.
That was 77, Dave. How old were you? 77.
21. 21. I hadn't turned 21 yet. I was just 20.
Yeah, you were 20.
20.
And you were leading me astray there.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So James Patrick is coming on. I tried to wait till the last minute to send James the link so he couldn't figure it out, just to screw him up, just so he could look bad.
Oh wow. Good.
He had to download Firefox, the Chrome or the browser.
I can't believe guys don't know how to do this crap.
Yeah.
So Gresh has got a big day today. Once we're done with the show, he's going to Costco and Home Depot in one day.
And somewhere else too. I can't remember.
Oh, can't remember.
I wrote it down.
That's how I write things down now, and I forget where I write them down.
That's what I did. That's why I can't. I'm looking. I was going to look for it before talking to Tommy. I'm going, where did I write that down?
How about when you're walking around, you're looking for your phone and you're carrying it? Right? You ever do that? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Done that. And total panic too, right?
Yeah.
Not like the old days when you're younger. You knew exactly where everything was, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
And you just like if you couldn't find it, somebody lost it on you, or somebody screwed it.
Yeah.
Now it's like totally panic.
I went to the store yesterday. Came back in, went upstairs, came back, then went to the bathroom, did all the stuff. Look, I can't find my phone. I go back out to the car. I search the car. Come back in. I'm looking in the couch. I'm looking. It's in my pocket. I wanted to rip my arms off and beat myself to death.
I bet I've left it on at the cash register at the store. I've left it in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
I
used to have that.
We promised we'd go to Costco. We're going to go to Costco next week sometime during the week.
Yeah, we'll do that.
It was Labor Day weekend. I was going to go this weekend. It was Labor Day weekend. We can't go Labor Day weekend.
That's
Too
a good time
busy.
to go. There's nobody there.
No, I think it'll be busy on Saturday. We'll be loading up for Monday.
Yeah.
So,
can you imagine Dave in Costco and Saturday before Labor Day weekend?
I'm out. I'm done. As soon as I see the line, I'm out. I said, I went over to Whole Foods. I went over to Whole Foods the other day, and they have it where it's all lined up, and so I walk around, and I swear to God, there's 50 people in line, 25 people in line. And the guy says, you have to move over here. You have to move over here. I said, well, you got to get more cashiers. And he says, we got a lot of cashiers. I put my stuff down, walked out. I'm not dealing with this anymore. Well, that's the new. Like, I didn't get in trouble. I didn't yell or anything. So it's good.
Yeah.
Good.
I got one of those the other day too. Guy cut the line.
Oh, I like that. I like that happens. Yeah. I get it. Well, too.
Did you say anything?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And then he cut the line and didn't leave there. And so these ladies were in front of me. I go, you cut these ladies off and you cut me off. He
nice.
goes, nobody was here. I go, what are you, blind? Like, I'm not that small. You can't see me.
Yeah, exactly.
And we got into it. And then I walked outside. Him and his buddy were standing by his truck.
Oh.
So I went over by my car. So I wasn't alone in the car.
Yeah. All the worries, right? So, what do you think of the playoffs before we get Jeep? What do you think?
Nathan McKinnon is my all-time favorite athlete now. Unbelievable.
Oof. Is he like that? Like that's strong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I watched about 5 minutes of the game last night, but I saw that guy go try to hit him.
Yeah.
And I mean, the other guy's a big guy.
Yeah.
You know what I like? Like when he does press conferences, like he didn't feel like he had a good first period. Just right at it. He said, I can't use the language he was using, but he just talked about how terrible he was in the first period. Like he's so honest with his game and everything.
Well, he's from the same town as Sidney Crosby, right?
Yeah.
So he worked. Apparently, he's worked out the last 2 summers, Crosby.
Yeah.
And that can't help but rub off, right?
Yeah. Work ethic. Yeah.
The work ethic. And that was the thing. The guy took, he was 1 overall, but it took a little while for him to kind of figure it out. And,
yeah. That's true, right? Like that's the scary thing because you see guys like Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews, they come in at 18 years old, do so well. Like that's almost freakish, right? I mean, that is a compliment to him. I mean, to be able to handle all that stuff at 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember talking to Peter McNabb, who's the color analyst for the Avalanche out there, and it was early in McKinnon's career, and he wasn't convinced yet the guy really knew what it took. You know, he had all the tools, but just making that next step. And so it's like JT Miller. I watched JT Miller. I'm telling you, I watched him the other night when he took a swing back at Reeves. You know, and that guy is frightening too.
Yeah.
When he took a poke back, didn't take a step back. You know, and I remember when Vino came here, there was wonder, you know, whether he was going to be a player or not.
Yeah.
Boy, you know.
How about, see where Barzal got hit in the eye, and they were trying to figure out whether he was going to play. They play tonight, right?
Yeah.
And Vigneault was getting interviewed, and I guess they took the elevator up with the 4 Islander coaches and Barzal. So they asked Vigneault, and he gave his medical report on Barzal for the other team that he was from.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Is his eye okay?
Yeah, that's what Vigneault said. He said he came up in the elevator with him after the game, and he was fine. So.
Yeah, that was a little scary, though, right? So
yeah. Well, it reminded me when I had Brian Berard, I represented him, and he got hit by Marian Hossa, pretty much lost his eye. Same kind of scenario. A guy followed through on a shot and stick went up.
So did he have shield on at that time, Tommy?
No, he did not. No.
See, this is like the shield, right? It just got underneath.
Yeah, in that case, it's kind of worse, right? Because it kind of draws the stick into your eye.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's a freakish thing, too. That probably never, you know, I mean, that might happen 1 in 1,000 times.
Think about all the times, though, you're standing in front of the net, right? Because we all played the smart position defense.
Right.
And all the pucks that went by you, how close they were.
Yeah.
That they didn't nail you. I got one, like the 4th or 5th last game I ever played in the playoffs against Scott Stevens. Put one right here.
Oh boy!
And I got a picture of it too.
Yeah,
looks good. I was in a restaurant after eating guacamole.
Vegas and Vancouver playing tonight, right?
Yeah.
So does Vegas come back with Marc-Andre Fleury who won last game, or no, he lost last game?
He lost last game.
Yeah.
No, I think he goes back to the other guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I watched the first period of that, and you know, Vancouver just kind of won't go away, and they're getting a little tough. You know, they continue to kind of grow, you know, that playoff toughness. I don't think they're going to beat Vegas.
Yeah.
But Vegas is good. They've got.
Well, didn't Fleury won the last game he played, didn't he?
No, that started game.
He won. Yeah, he won 5-3. There were.
No, didn't he start the last game? He started the guys in the Vancouver extended the series. So what's that? That's a 3-2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so Vancouver extended it. They won game 5.
Right.
And Fleury was in net for, wasn't he? He was in net for.
No, I think Gresh may be right. I think they came back.
He played game 4.
Oh, that's right. They did. I remember now what, right. Because all the guys in the studio were all thinking they were coming with Fleury. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then,
and how about, speaking of goaltenders, how about St. Louis trading Jake Allen to Montreal, right?
Yeah, well, that's like maybe trying to make room. I don't know. It's $4 million, right, on the cap.
Yeah, it's 1 year. So they've got $15 million in goaltending money and a cap next year in Montreal, but it's only a 1 year deal for Jake Allen. So they're figuring next year if they have to compact the schedule, and then you don't, pay price back-to-back games all the time. So you got a quality goaltender there, and then so now they make room in the cap at St. Louis for Pietrangelo, right?
Right. Yeah. So they're going to find a way to get him signed with that flat cap and stuff. So
who wins tonight? The Islanders. They play tonight. Islanders. Philly.
I think the Islanders. I'm going to take the Islanders again. I'm taking the Islanders again.
I hope they do because I hate both those teams, but I just hate Flyers more.
Yeah, I'm with you, but I just think the Flyers now they've got Drew scoring. Well, at least he scored. So
right.
If he can score some goals,
well, that's true
for Philly.
But it was,
it's amazing.
I want to see Philadelphia go 55 years without a cup. One more than the Rangers.
See if they can handle it, right? We'll see how tough they are.
Well, here we go. Hold on, everybody. So just so you know, before we bring him on, as soon as I sent out the notice that James Patrick was coming on, it was like, Jeep this, Jeep that. We love Jeep. Jeep's the best. Jeep used to come to my house. It's like, is this like
Rocky talking?
There he is.
There he is.
I have to start off by embarrassing me, Tommy.
Well, I mean, it was awful. I thought the show was supposed to be about us three, and all of a sudden I mentioned you're coming on, and all of a sudden you're the star of the show. Everybody couldn't wait to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I've enjoyed watching you guys for the last 3 months.
Would you feel any different if he didn't kind of jap you to begin with? Like that was like par for the course,
I
right?
feel right at home. It brings me back, right back to 30 years ago.
Oh, God. How are you, lad?
I'm
How you
good.
doing? Yeah.
How about 36 years ago?
I know. It's incredible how old we've gotten, how quick, and how time flies.
And you're up in Winnipeg now?
I am. Yeah, I moved back here last summer. Obviously, Gresh has filled you guys in that I'm coaching the junior team, the Winnipeg Ice here. That Gresh's nephew is the owner, and it's real exciting. It's a fun league coach. I'm loving that, but it's great to be involved with him. The things he's doing here in this city are pretty impressive.
Good.
That's great.
It's gotta be tough to have Gresh like thinking, okay, what is Gresh saying about me behind my back, right? Like to his cousin.
Hey, listen to me. I didn't know Jeep went in for the interview at all.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, now they've got. I mean, what if they lose 5 games? What are you going to throw them under the bus, or what are you going to do?
I lost 5 my first 2 years. Plenty of times we lost 5 games in a row.
Sometimes more.
Who's counting?
Yeah, you know what? One player in that team is I love is that Carson Lambos.
I know he'll be an NHLer. So he's.
I mean, the guys. He's a defenseman. He's 16. What does he weigh? Like 200 and what does he weigh?
Yeah, he's like low 200s, 205 in there, but he's
16.
He reminds me not. I mean, the enemy of the Rangers, but he's like in our league. He's like a young Dennis Potvin.
Oh.
A young like this kid is mean. He's tough and can skate. His wrist shot. He's got an NHL wrist shot. So.
I went last year. I went opening game in Brandon, Manitoba, and Winnipeg. Right. So the game back in Winnipeg, some guy runs one of his guys from behind, and this other guy that ran from behind was like a 19-year-old or something, went right after him.
Yeah.
Right he did that about our first 5 fights were him, a 16-year-old. So.
James, your nephew was a second pick of Philadelphia. What, 2 years ago? 3 years ago now?
Yeah, I think 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
Now, is he getting migraines or what's going on there?
No, he's had a concussion issue all year. He missed a year with concussion. Basically,
his last year junior, right? Did he get hurt?
But he had 2 groin operations his last year junior. He didn't have a concussion until he got to the NHL.
Wow.
I mean, I believe he's going to be fine. He is skating and feels 100% now. So hopefully, when they restart, he'll be back.
Good. So everybody knows James Patrick has set an all-time NHL record for tightening his skates.
I saw that
in a career.
You know what? About my 4th or 5th last year, I learned the proper way to tie them that I didn't have to do that anymore. But I saw one guy I played with my whole career could tape his ankles, and who was a really good skater, and that was Brian Leach.
Right.
I loved my skates being tight around my ankles, but I felt like if you taped them, they felt like a cast, and I liked. So yeah. I know it bugged all 3 of you defensemen that I'm talking to.
It didn't bother us. It was just kind of entertaining. Like every shift, it's like after the shift was done, James said you had calluses on your hands and everything from doing up your skates so much.
So you like the boot. So James, you like the boot loose or tight?
I like it tight, right around the ankle, just the top few outlet. I like it tight there. So
there you go. So what do you when you think back to New York, James? What do you remember? What do you think about your days in New York?
Oh, I think about the players I played with. I honestly, I've really enjoyed watching you guys, and because all 3 of you had a big influence on me, a big effect on my career. When I joined the team, if I could say anyone took me under their wing, it was you, Dave. Who, I mean, it's looking back now, it's awkward joining a team late in the year with a month left in the season when you're going to get ice time, someone else is not. Are you going to perform up to expectations? All the fitting into the dressing room, on the ice and off the ice, and no one was nicer to me than you, Dave. And I mean, on the ice and off the ice, you and your wife, and so to experience that and last part of that year, the start of the next year, and then you got traded. You get traded for my brother, and it really was bittersweet for me because I felt a bond with you, and yet my brother was coming to the team. I got a chance to play with my brother, and so it was a real weird feeling. And that's how I mean. I really felt a connection. I really respected and looked up to you. Tommy was my first partner, and certainly a guy who. I will say this as my career, once I got to learn the ropes and played, 2 or 3 years there, Tommy and Gresh ran the team. They ran. They ran the bus. They ran the plane. The seats on the plane. They kept everyone in their place. I mean, I know I became extremely close to both you guys. Gresh was my best man, in my wedding eventually. Tommy was my partner and a guy who really showed me the ropes. I mean, my first, second, third, those years.
Well, Jeep, then I have to say,
what is important. What's that, Gresh?
I'm amazing you lasted that long if Tommy showed you the ropes.
Didn't screw up your career.
It really speaks to his talent, right?
Yeah.
I tried to learn him. 21 years? How many years did you play?
I did. I was able to stick it out, and we got expansion, and I had a real good fit my last 6 years in Buffalo as a veteran guy, and got to play for him, and I played with him.
What people don't know about James, like James is a real. I'm going to start off giving you a compliment. James is a real gentleman. Obviously we joke around, we're kidding each other all the time. And Gresh and I were laughing when we knew you were coming on the show. And I remember a couple of times when I would do something to you, like joking around. I maybe saw your stick halfway through or whatever, and you would get mad at me. Like you get mad and you would sulk and you wouldn't talk to me for a week. But the funny thing about it, when the week was over with, he would come and apologize to me for not talking to me for a week. I was the one that started it by sawing his stick in half, So
no, I wouldn't talk to you for 2 days, maybe, or a day.
It seemed like a week, James. I was devastated. It seemed like a week.
It seemed like a week to Tommy, Jeep, because nobody else talked to Tommy.
Yeah, exactly.
I know it was maybe frustration of getting picked on, but I also knew that you guys liked me by doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we loved you. You were a fantastic teammate. Are you serious? It was, but you mentioned it though. It was tough. I must have been tough for you coming in late in the year. And I think that first year we were playing the Islanders. Is that the year that we lost in the?
Yeah, right.
And James played a big role too, right? So,
right.
Yeah, it was for me. Learning about pro hockey, learning about maybe the business side of it. The coaches, management, how all that worked. It's when you come from junior and college, it's so different. So I thought, Tommy, you were real helpful for me with. I mean, I know my first full year there, I really struggled, and I know you were real helpful. I was the type of guy who expected a lot of myself. I got way too down on myself. Didn't have as much fun as I should have. Definitely early, because I was so serious about the game. And Dave, with you being that close to the team, you see young players like that who put the weight of the world on their shoulders, and instead of just go out and work, have fun, compete, and don't worry about too many other things. And I know I did that early, but Tommy helped me, Gresh helped me, as my career moved on, I guess, and I think helped me adjust and get settled into trying to be a good player.
Right.
Yeah, I remember when we would do these drills, and Jeep would be first in line, right? So I'd be fourth in line or whatever. He'd come back, and we're both playing the right side. He'd come back. Now he'd be fourth in line. I'd be fifth.
There you go.
He could skate like the wind,
Yeah, great skater. Oh my God, great, graceful.
I do remember one of my most embarrassing moments, and I will never forget this. In my whole career was the year Ted Sater became coach, and
that wasn't the crossovers.
Gresh was waiting to tell the story.
Okay, Gresh, you tell it.
No.
Come on, go ahead. Go ahead, do it. Come on.
I had to go first in every drill, and I was a young brown noser, had to be first, and gung ho, full of energy. And Ted had all these different drills. I remember we had tires out there, skating in between the tires. We had stations on the ice, and so Ted brought the defenseman down. He said, "Okay, I want you guys to skate backwards to the blue line, hit your knees on the ice, cross over along the blue line, and then skate back to the corner." Well, the way he described it, I skated, and I'm first. I skated backwards to the blue line. I hit my knees, and then I tried to do crossovers on my knees. Now, we've done crossovers since we were 8 years old in hockey camps, and I will never forget looking at the line, seeing Tommy, Brash, Barry Beck are crying. They're laughing so hard. I did destroy the drill. No one else. I don't think anyone else went because I did it so bad, and you guys were laughing. So.
Oh my God.
We shouldn't do it, but we pick on Teddy Senior quite a bit, right? You were obviously there the time when I think we were in Pittsburgh. We came back the next day and played a bad game, and he had us out at the practice rink at Rye Playland, and he had Gresh and myself and Bob Bruck skate back and forth. God, he was like he had this whole mind thing going. He was going to teach us all a lesson and everything like that. Everybody's just dying laughing because the three of us are skating.
Yeah, I mean, being a coach now, and I really look back on all the coaches I've had, and I do think I've learned something from every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's
crossovers from Teddy.
Style, but Ted was, I think, for me, Ted was what could have been. I think he could have been a good coach, but he got in the way of himself. I think when they came in, I think 3 or 4 days into training camp and sent down Pierre LaRouche,
Mike Rogers,
Glenn Hanlon, and
Nicky. Yeah.
It was
Deal. Yeah.
4 really important, respected veterans like that to treat. Looking back now, it's incredible to treat. Whether you didn't want them on the team, you don't treat respected longtime veterans. I mean, look at what Nicky means to the franchise.
Right.
Glenn Hanlon was as good a teammate as anyone could have. Mike Rogers was a leading scorer and had played 14, 15 years of pro. And Pierre LaRouche was a 400 goal scorer who it was so stupid we sent him down that we couldn't score goals, and you call him back up and he's our best goal scorer. So I think Ted, that's how he started the season. I think the systems he put on the team were good. I think his knowledge of the game were good, but he just he really lost the respect of the veterans early, and he never gained it back. And I think,
he just didn't have a feel for that kind of stuff, right? It just wasn't natural for him to understand that. Yeah, especially with those guys, he didn't just send them down; he sent them to other teams, minor league franchises too. So
Pierre went to Hershey, I think, didn't he?
Yeah. So I didn't get it to that extent being a young player. That was my second year, but I knew we missed those players. I knew how important they were to the team. But I even look back now and I just say, geez, how stupid. I mean, talk about kicking yourself in the foot. And,
So what
that's my Ted memory.
What do you take from Herbie, James?
I think for Herbie, I loved his communication. I had a few meetings with him early, and it's the game has changed so much now. And I know NHL junior players now, they want feedback. They want instant feedback, constant communication. I just thought with Herbie, I had some great meetings on how he wanted me to play, to my skills, and he wanted me gambling and skating and being up the ice. I loved his motion. He loved, having flow.
Right.
And yet I thought at the same time we played really good defensively. Like we could, I thought, the year I had Herbie, like we defended well. We could play Edmonton and we could skate with them, but we could take away the neutral zone or the middle of the ice and keep them to the outside. So I thought those are two of the things I took from him. The other thing, I'm a big believer in conditioning. I still am. And Herbie was, you had that once a week, you had your bag skate, whether you liked it or not, but I think it still made you better. It made you better. I needed that, and I think most guys do as players. And maybe you're now in the NHL, it's such an intense schedule. Your top players you may be the second half of the year you have to be careful with, but
Right.
but I liked, you know, he had his bag, Herbie's, and you guys
Well, you know what, too, is that why, you know, being around now and watch how the different coaches have come through here, and particularly David Quinn. Like he's like Herbie was so far advanced on just how a practice should run and on top of the conditioning and really the community. He was just, you know, I just look at things now and said, gosh, because I went from him to Scotty, and Scotty just, you know, did you cross paths with him along the way?
I never did.
No, Scotty, you know, he won like all in. He's won like 12 cups or whatever. So he just, you know, but it was frightening how different it was, and it's also the thing now how advanced Herb was, and even the game, like the game we played, I think, you know, was now more like the game now, where you know, or maybe the skills were different, but I loved it too. I like.
You know, James, you talk about taking things away from coaches. I was coach of the Greenwich High School team here one year, and they, you know, it's high school kids, so they're not listening. It's a discipline issue, and we had about 20 minutes of extra ice time at the end of the game, and they wouldn't listen. And I said, okay, that's fine, don't listen, but I'm going to keep you after the game. I'm going to skate you. And I it was like a flashback to the movie, you know, where Herbie's standing on the ice in his street shoes and he's blowing the whistle, and there I was skating these high school kids, and it's like, what? It's like here I am doing it, you know. And, oh, the parents were just livid too. No, they're going to learn.
Yeah,
they still didn't listen to. So.
Yeah, no, it's
You know, I during the lockout, or COVID, I should say, with all the rebroadcasts of the old games, you know, I was able to watch a couple of the old Ranger games, that Islander series.
Yeah,
and yes, the skill level is different. I mean, the skill level in every sport and every athlete gets better every decade, every 2 or 3 years.
Right.
But how the game was played is not that much different. It still comes down to, I mean, compete is huge. One-on-ones, protecting the puck, winning the 50-50 battles. When I watched that game, we were not playing that much different. Very similar system to the way the game's played now.
Well, it's funny because I don't know if you guys have noticed that a couple times over time, they'll run a video of Emile Francis pregame talk to they were playing Chicago at the Garden, and it was like, you know, you go in, be hard on the puck, you know, eliminate the man, get a chance to move it. Yeah. You know, just like the terminology a lot has gotten a lot more sophisticated, but really the method to the madness is, you know, basically when you look at it, it's pretty simple. You know?
Some of the coaches are trying to reinvent the same thing that's been going on and just come up with a different name for it.
Yeah.
That has definitely happened over the last 20 years. And
like back checking is now called back pressure, right? I mean,
tracking back. You know, it's track is a big term they use for that. And
net front presence, I like that one too. Yeah. Right? Net front presence. Okay, that means
he plays the 200-foot game.
Yeah.
When he used to be in front of the net playing D and Probert was in front of the net.
Yeah, that was net front presence.
That was backtracking right there.
I don't know how long ago we had John Tonelli on, and then the next week we had Clark Gillies on. And you know how much Gillies, you know, we all talked about it. I get that one eyebrow going across the top of his head. But he was so happy to be on with us. Like, we were like all buddies, you know, like he was just thrilled to be on the show with us. We're like, okay.
Well, again, like when James was talking about Ted Sater, you know, that was me, the story he told about. Basically, he had Sater by the throat after a playoff game. And he played the Buffalo. And it was like 40 years later, like the smoke was still coming out of his ears. You know,
he still looked a little mad.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You made a good point before. Like those top guys, you know, you really, you know, you had to respect who they were, right? Like, I mean, he might have been at the end of his career, but as he was saying, you know, he said, listen, I'd done a few things. I won a few cups, and I played in Team Canada and this and that. And, you know, he was the way he was treated by Ted Sater was.
If you don't treat your veterans the right way, it reverberates.
Right.
I mean, everyone else sees it, and it's hard to. Whether the guy's going to be on your team, what type of role he's going to play, if you don't make him part of the team,
Right.
It hurts you. It can do more damage. Even, I mean, maybe comparable this past year in the playoffs, I thought Lucic played really well for Calgary.
Right.
He is what he is. He's, he's maybe lost a step. The guy still has huge presence. He's got a big contract. Your team stuck with it. So you can either, make him feel part of it and be, big, a leader off the ice and a big part of the team, or you can isolate him and almost embarrass him. And it never ends well that way. So that doesn't surprise me about Ted.
And do you think, James, like you mentioned with Herbie, the communication too, like in the Ted Sater, Clark Gillies case there, Ted had gone to Clark, said, listen, I have total respect for you, but I'm going to have to, whatever I'm doing here, let him know what's happening so he's not blindsided, right?
Yeah, it's, I think that's something that's different. It's definitely changed, in our game, especially back to when we played. I don't know if you guys saw the documentary on Michael Jordan and the Bulls.
Yeah.
So that was during the 80s, 90s, that the whole thing. It was the same era that I was playing in. And I was just, I know Michael Jordan was the best player in the league, but the relationship with him and Phil Jackson, like Phil, everything that he did, he went through Michael.
Right.
And that's the way it is now in hockey. But I think hockey was 20 years behind as far as, treating your superstars the right way. I know when Lindy went to Buffalo, I know Dominic Hasek had been more or less, ostracized, and he had been hurt in the playoffs. His teammates thought he'd pulled the chute. He didn't, fight through an injury. And I think the first thing Lindy did was he went in and patched things up with Dom. He made Dom is, when he's an elite superstar, you have to get him on board.
Right.
And it took a while for maybe for hockey to catch up to that, to where basketball was. And so I know Phil Jackson and Jordan were maybe separate, but I still think it goes back to your veterans run the room. Tommy and Gresh ran the room when I played. If you're a coach and you're not, if you don't have communication with those guys, you don't have a relationship with those guys, you're not helping.
Right.
So, Jeep, is junior hockey going to start this year?
It's anyone's guess. We're trying to. We're shooting for a December start, camp, middle of November. Supposedly, there's a board of governors meeting in about a week. We'll know more then. It's still going to come down to the government, because, like the NHL, we're a gate-driven league.
Right.
That's what, I don't know what will happen in the NHL after the after the bubble, when they talk about continuing next year, because are they going to start if they can't have fans in the building?
So, James, you think if the junior teams can't have fans in the building, they just financially can't keep playing?
No, I don't think they will. And I mean, you'd hope we can't take a year off, but whether they're waiting for a vaccine. Right now, they're talking about, can we have buildings at 50% capacity? Most of the buildings in our league are big enough that that you can do that. So I think those are all the things discussed. But the government's involved, so it's anyone's guess.
Yeah.
So when people knew you were coming on, one of the things they talked about too was the great fight you had with Dave Poulin, center ice at Madison Square Garden. That was a good one.
Yeah, my one win in about 10 NHL fights.
No, it's not. That's not true at all.
You beat him good too.
Oh, you played him up pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I got him with one punch, and who knows? I don't know what happened after that.
Well, you had it was 2 rounds too, wasn't it? Like you got one and then it stopped and went back again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I look back. Obviously, remember that fight. Remember, I still to this day, I despise the Philadelphia Flyer organization.
Welcome aboard.
I hate.
Welcome aboard.
I respect everyone I played against. I hate some of the guys who were on that team. I hated the way they played. I disliked that was allowed. It's still in our game in the 80s, after what they went through in the 70s. So, and we know that team, like they would bring on, they'd have 4 or 5 fighters, and then they would get 2 or 3 more. And I remember a bunch of incidences over the, that 4 or 5 year span playing them. I remember Ed Hospodar cross-checking you in the face.
Yeah.
Gosh, I remember Greg Smith fighting Mark Pavlich.
Yeah.
Like two-handing Pavlich, and Pav went right at him and grabbed him by the legs and tripped him. And this guy shouldn't be in the NHL. He could barely play, and he was a 6'5" fighter. Yeah. And I get it was part of the game. And toughness was part of the game. But I guess to the extent Philadelphia took it, that
they took it to a stupid level.
Yeah, really. And
some of those guys that played in that team, Brian Propp and Zezel and Poulin, whatever his name was. When they come into the end against you, they'd look over their shoulders. Who was on the ice with them on their team?
Yeah,
they would go from 5'5", whatever they were, to like 6'5" in 2 seconds because they knew Dave Brown was coming behind them. They were a bunch. I hate that team. I dislike the Islanders, and I'm cheering for them to beat Philly because I dislike Philly more.
Yeah,
there's an old saying. There's an old saying. You know why birds fly upside down in Philly? Nothing left to dump on.
I forgot about that old saying, Ron.
Yeah.
So, hey, Tommy, I guess you won't be taking your show to Philly, huh? We won't be.
No, I guess not. No.
Hey,
but it's funny though, because like in the agent business, I would run into guys like Dave Brown and everything. And I think I told the story when I got traded away to LA. We came back to play in Philly, and we're lining up for face-off, and Brown comes beside me, and I'm thinking, oh, here we go. Because with the Rangers, there's something happening, and we're lining up for the face-off, and he starts, "Hey, Tommy, how you doing?" I'm like, what? Like he wanted to know how I was doing. He's wanting the conversation. And then I saw him later on, and there's an agent who was scouting, and he was the nicest guy in the world. And I'm thinking, this is the same guy that got 10 games for cross-checking Thomas Sandstrom on the side of the head, right? So,
yeah.
Well, we were when the Spectrum was still up, and the Rangers were on a road trip, and it finished. We had an off day in Philly for whatever reason. I'm not quite sure why. They were practicing at the Spectrum. So I don't know. This might be 2010 or 11. The building's still out. I hadn't been in the Spectrum in however long. And I remember I walked in there and I said, I thought this place looks the same, it feels the same, it smells the same. It still sucks. I hated that place. I hated playing there. I hated the crowd. Everything was geared to that kind of I was there. The music was loud. And it was hard, and that guy with the sign behind the net, he just went and cracked his stick over his head. Mm-hmm. But I think we're all agreed. And you played those, especially like there were days we played them 14 times between exhibition and playoffs.
We played them the one year. We played them in 78, 79. We played them 15 times.
Right, 15
times. We played 100 games, 31 against the Islanders and against Philly.
But the Islanders you respected. They played. They would play hard. They play honest. If they had to get at it, they'd get at it. And it's like Montreal. The great teams were, but the Flyers. I couldn't agree with you more, James, or anybody. That I don't have a whole lot of respect for that way they played the game and won.
James, have you kept in touch with anybody like Mike Allison at all?
You know what? I haven't. I maybe saw Mike. I ran into him about 5 years ago at he was in Winnipeg at a Hall of Fame banquet that his uncle was played on a Memorial Cup champion in the 60, 70 years ago, and he was representing his family there. So I saw Mike then. We have a mutual friend that I see 2 or 3 times a summer who's real good friends with Mike, so I get updates on him. It was awesome seeing him on your show.
Yeah.
Again, one of the best teammates. And
God, love that.
Smart hockey player.
Yeah, he was smart. Really smart.
His legs were. I know he had knee issues, but incredible face off. The 2 years I played with him, a fantastic guy who was a smart hockey player. And if he was healthier, would have had a better career. Like he was. I mean, that Islander series, I watched Game 5 there from '84, and he was outstanding. And he head-to-head against Trottier, and he could play that type of hockey. So,
it's funny listening to him talk to. He kind of doubted himself. It was interesting. Like he didn't realize how good he was, or how we viewed him as a teammate too, right? Like didn't realize how important he was.
He was funny. He was a funny guy though.
Oh, that night we talked about the night. The Big Jim Sports Campers. Do you remember Big Jim Sports Campers?
Yeah.
Oh, we talked about it that night. He tried to blame it on me. It was not me. I want to let you know that right now. It was all him.
Yeah. Okay.
We got on James because James wanted to be called James. So then I guess in Fort Francis, where Mike is from, there's this Big Jim Sports Camper. So Mike went into this long thing about how it was James Patrick's Big Jim. He owned Big Jim Sports Campers. And it doesn't seem too funny now, but it was funny at the time. It might have been a few cocktails we had too, but.
So how do you like Buffalo, James?
Well, I love the city. I love living there. When I look back, I enjoyed every place I played, but my best years were with the Rangers because you're younger and you have your best years there. But to play the last 6 years, incredible sports town,
Great
fantastic people. I mean, it's on the Canadian border, so you get access to Canada. But it is a truly great sports town. Like it's so underrated. Super passionate fans. So I love living there.
Right. Yeah, it's a great. It was a great. I was only there for half a year, but it's a great town. It's really it gets beat up a lot, especially a lot of people come in and only see the downtown area, which. The Pagoons are doing a good job now and kind of set up. But, boy, the people there are tremendous. I just really very much enjoyed it. It was such a difference after being in New York, too, right?
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm from Winnipeg.
Right.
And Buffalo is the Winnipeg of the U.S. Like they're both.
Right.
No two guys picked on Winnipeg more than Tommy and Gresh as soon as the plane touched down when we got on the bus. Gresh would always point out, "Hey, there's a tree. There's a tree in Winnipeg." And
I remember one
Buffalo was the same way. Like Buffalo, what's that?
We're driving on a bus, and Lucien Deblois had played there, and he loved it there. Loved Winnipeg, right? So we're driving down whatever that main street is, and we're going to the hotel.
One
Lucien,
street.
what the hell's going on? There's not even a leaf on the tree. He goes, "It's December." I go. Like I was joking around. He got all serious. Get off the bus. He's telling me that there's no leaves. I go. I got it. Oh my God! But Winnipeg's a nice town. My son's going to go to college there next year. Well, start if he can. You're supposed to start now. But he wants to go there because you know why he likes Winnipeg? Because you can gamble and drink at 18. He can get in legally.
Whose son is he?
Ashton.
I'm saying whose son is
he? In the family.
He must be related to my wife because not me. No drinking, no gambling. But anyway, he next year on his birthday, which is August 11th, on August 10th, Greg and myself are flying to Vegas with him, and then we're going to sit by the table at 12 o'clock at night. He can gamble legally.
There you go.
Yeah.
The passage.
Pass it down to somebody.
There you go.
My other son's going to Iona. He doesn't drink or nothing. Like
what's wrong with him?
Yeah.
I don't know. He's only 6'5.5", 350. So you don't mess with him. So I don't argue with him because I don't want to get the crap beat out of me.
Gee, what's your brother Steve doing?
Still in real estate. He's had a 30-some year real estate career. My father started a real estate and insurance business 60 years ago, and Steve took over that. And has two daughters, play college hockey. His son is hopefully resume his career. So he's a hockey dad who's always watching games, and he's done real well. He's had a real good career, and he's looking to wind it up. So he wants to really slow down the next few years here.
It's amazing how many guys have come out of Winnipeg and ended up in the league. There's a lot of players in the league now that come through Winnipeg.
Yeah, there's some. I mean, obviously, I think Jonathan Taves, is probably the best. I think he's the best player ever to come out of Manitoba, and he's going on 15 years in the league. But probably he's been a big influence. Some good young players.
Right.
Cody Glass, my nephew.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah.
Isn't Reeves from there?
Reeves is from here. His dad played for the Bombers.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I love going to the Bomber games.
That's right.
They still have the same stadium that was out by the whole rink?
No, that's both are gone now, Dave.
Yeah. What did they do with the Queen? What did they do with the picture of the Queen?
She's in storage. They talk about her every once a year. You hear about her. She's locked up in storage. It's like the biggest.
So anybody that doesn't know, when you go to the old Winnipeg Arena, they had this. How big was the picture? Like 20 by 50? The picture of the Queen?
I think it's the biggest picture ever. Like it's probably a 4 foot.
Like one end, right? Yeah. Yeah.
That picture, I think Phil's nose would have fit on that picture.
So, James, did you see when we had Phil on?
I did. And I mean, I have mixed feelings because I really liked Phil. I loved him as a broadcaster. I was 10 years old during the Canada Cup Series, and I thought it's the most passionate, speech ever after a hockey game by a player. I've never seen anything like it 60 years later. Right. One of the greatest players of all time. So then to have Phil as a coach and GM, I enjoyed it. I mean, was he a good GM? I don't know. He's super passionate, and it was all about, his whole message was, I want you guys to go have fun and play. And I'll never forget, he fired Ted Sater in Vancouver, and he walked into the room and he said, we got rid of that fucker. Now we're going to have some fun. But it was.
I'm surprised Phil would use that word.
Yeah. But have fun. 10 minutes into the game, it's 4-0 for Vancouver. We won 8-4.
Wow. I remember I saw a replay of that. They showed that game recently. Yeah.
We won something like that, 8-4. So I know it was, a lot of guys were traded, and it was up and down roller coaster of a couple seasons with Phil, but I still loved his passion. I was really disappointed with what he said about Willie Huber. Yeah. I played 4 years with Willie. No funner of a guy. I actually thought the best thing Ted Sater ever did as a coach was he got a lot out of Willie. He convinced Willie to ride. He rode the bike with Willie every day after practice. Willie got in the best shape of his life and I thought it was kind of a comeback year for Willie.
Yeah.
Willie was a great teammate, who was a fun guy to be around, who was a 6'5" skilled player who wasn't a physical player. That was probably that wasn't his nature, and that hurt him because when you're that big, that's what's expected of you. But all of us had great times with Willie. So
we met up. Yeah.
It's a bad choice of words by Phil. Even if you didn't like him as a player, hey, there's players you're going to like and someone else will like, and different opinions in the game. But
we addressed that the next show, and I got along with Willie. He moved in the city, and he used to call me up and goes, "Where's a good restaurant to eat?" I go, "Well, Willie, it's not that hard. There's only about 12,000 of them." But he liked, he had whatever he.
I think as far as a player, you're right, James. Especially if, in those days, somebody that big was supposed to play a certain way. And he really could shoot it. He could pass it. For a big man, he was really skilled.
He was.
Like you said, he was a good teammate too. He was a good guy.
Yeah.
Called everyone Jack. Remember, everyone he called Jack, and then if he didn't practice, he said, "No, bad pins."
How about
pins aren't too good.
We were in Winnipeg, and everybody, they call it the flu. Remember that song? Willie didn't play, and it was a song by Elton John.
Yeah.
And Willie couldn't play.
Oh, it's the flu.
Yeah.
That's right, too. I forgot about that. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. They called it.
Hey, the first time I ever saw a coach and a player getting in a fight was Willie and Carol Vadnais had a big FU fight in New Jersey, maybe my 10th game. I don't know if you guys remember that.
I don't remember that. No.
Carol Vadnais walked into the dressing room and said something to Willie, and Willie said, "Fuck off, Vad." I think maybe I don't know if they played together, and Vad stopped in his tracks, and then it was like back and forth for about 30 seconds, fuck you. And that was shocking to me, a player talking back to a coach.
Yeah. Especially Willie, Willie was, I don't know. I don't remember ever being, he wasn't a real confrontational type.
No.
Yes, I guess just took it off.
Yeah.
We all agreed that Phil maybe had crossed the line with those comments, and we all agreed that, everybody's got their own way, and everybody should be respected for that. So,
It's a shame too, like James said too. Like Phil, I think we all have such a great feeling towards Phil on a personal level and
right
for the game and everything too. So that was unfortunate, but we did. I know if you before the guy got on the show, he asked me. He said, "Tom, can I swear on the show?" I said, "Well, Phil, we're trying to be a little careful. I guess a couple of FU bombs aren't too bad." At one point there, somebody was keeping track, and he's like up at 70 or 80 times. The F-bomb was like, oh my God. And I figured I would say to him, I said, Phil, you're setting a record for dropping the F-bomb. I think maybe he'd wake him up, realize he was doing it. Didn't care. He was just.
Didn't stop him.
That's his passion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally.
Right. So what do you think of the younger players today, James? How do you, you've been around coaching long enough now to know that this, it's a different time. And what do you think your key is to this kind
I think a majority of them are more committed than ever. They compete. Their skill level is off the charts. They just keep getting more skilled. I do think there is a different mentality. We've talked a bit in the last 10 years. You've seen more entitlement come into it, or I do think they do get things quicker. It's a young players league, and so there's some young players come in and they're outstanding right off the bat, but there's some other players who expect that, or they expect that big a role, and if they don't, it's hard for them to deal with it because it's something they've never dealt with their whole life. So I do think at times, as coaches, you have to change a bit because they're not going to change. This is who you're dealing with now.
Right.
I love the way the game's played. I still love watching it. The speed of the game. I don't know where it's going to go because players keep getting faster. But I do think watching some of the older games, I know that the hooking and holding is way out of hand. But what amazed me is players fighting through it. Some of guys heavy on their sticks, guys, in crunch time, it's like you're getting slashed. It's late in the game. The refs put a whistle away in these old games.
Yeah,
and you had to fight through it.
Right.
And I think that's probably the one thing you wish you saw more from the young players now. Just and some guys do, and they stand out when they do it. Fighting through adversity, fighting through. And I get an inside with my nephew because I helped him when he was a younger kid, but then from the time he was 16 on, he went to skill camps and his agents camps and his first year in the league, he'd be pouting about ice time. And he'd call me up and say, "Oh, I played 7 minutes last night." And I said, "Well, what are you going to do about it?"
Yeah, right.
Fuck, what can I do if the coach doesn't play anymore? And I said, "Well, you know what you can do? I hope you're the first guy on the ice. I hope every day after practice, grab that Gudis and play one-on-one in the corner, protect the puck with him. Because I say, if you can battle with that guy, you can battle with any. Do that for about 20 minutes. Then grab the skill coach and can you work on your one-timers? Can you work on your hands? If you do everything possible to make yourself better, it'll pay off. And then the 7 minutes will go to 9 minutes and 11 minutes. There's still a big group of them that young players that they just expect it to be handed to them. And the NHL is incredible. It has an incredible thing of putting players in their place.
Yeah, really nice, right?
In the league 2, 3, 4 years, if you're going to be what you're going to be, the league has put you in your place. The other players have put you in your place. If you're not good enough to be a top 6, you better find a way to play on those bottom 2 lines. And if you can't, you're out of the league.
You know what, James, and I want to see what you say about this too. Like I noticed when I was an agent for 22 years, when I started to see happen more and more, And what I learned, I'm sure probably all you guys, if things didn't go well like that, you gave him great advice, but also you say to him, listen, you march into the coach's office and sit down and close the door if you have a problem with the coach, and have it out behind closed doors. Don't pout about it or whatever. When I started to see happening with agents was the agents, because they wanted to satisfy the client, were now saying, I'll go in and talk to the coach.
Right.
Go talk to the GM. Right. And as a coach or GM, you're kidding me? This guy doesn't have the courage to come in and talk to us himself. He has to send his agent in. Right. So, and the agent's obviously telling him all the things that he shouldn't be here. You say, oh, yeah, you should be playing more. You're doing everything you need to be doing. I saw a lot of that. I think that's those young kids, right? If they haven't learned yet, it seems like the older guys are able to kind of push that aside and say, no, I'll go deal with it. I need to work harder. And I thought that became quite a problem. Is that something that you've had to deal with the agents?
Not at our league. I don't talk to the agents. The GM does. GM talks to the parents and the agents. I know it's a big deal now. And the GM will give me some agent feedback. This player's agent was complaining about this and this. So I hear everything that happens. But on the flip side, throughout the whole year, I work on having my players stand up and talk. 16-year-old kids, they're scared of talking in front of their peers. So literally the first week, once our team's together, we'll go out and we'll have a dinner together. We'll watch an NHL game, and I'll get every guy to stand up, talk who's his biggest influence, who his favorite coach was, who's his favorite team. And from that point on, pretty much every 2 weeks, at meals, I'll have different guys get up and just say a few words to try and get over the hump of can I speak? Can I stand up and speak and not be embarrassed? And because I know I was even late in my career, it's at times when you're standing up talking in front of the team or are going to say things. Yeah. So I hope they're over that fear of getting up and talking to the coach. I think coaches do a lot more of individual communication now than in the past. And I talk a lot with my team. It's an open door. If you got any issues, you come back and see me. And but we have had that. Don't get me wrong. We've had agents or parents phone and complain about something to the GM. GM passes it on to me. I go and talk to the player and I say, hey, do you have an issue? Come on back. My door is always open.
Right.
I do.
Coach, even if the kid's screaming at you, you would still respect them more. Like even if you're arguing face to face, the fact that you go into you'd actually respect the kid more if he's the kid's got a set of kahunas, right?
But in fairness, though, I still think there has to be a hierarchy. I still think that at the end of the day, you can yell and scream all you want, and this is what I'm going to tell you. This is what's expected of you. And I just sometimes allows, I went in and talked to the coach, or, you just went in and talked to him, now what? I just think it's anything else, right? There's got to be a comfortable balance.
Okay, I'll tell you, at the end of, I coached 12 years in the NHL, and my last year in Dallas, and I loved it. I loved every bit of the 12 years. So many great experiences. 99% of NHL players are unbelievable guys, and they're good people.
Right.
My last year in Dallas, we dealt with I just had two issues that really stood out for me. Had a former superstar player who wasn't that good a player anymore. Maybe a star player. Wasn't that good anymore. Didn't work hard enough in the off season. Like me and Kurt Fraser would see him walking in the weight room, just his shorts and no shirt on, and
he's out, right.
He's got a coach's body.
Right.
Fraz would go, he's not even as good a shape as you, and I train every day and stuff. And so this was a 34-year-old player, and so he would be mad at the head coach, and he'd skate up to me in the morning skate or skate up to me in practice, and he'd start saying, "This is a fucking joke. Fuck you! What you guys are fucking me." And I go, what do you mean? How are we fucking you? I'm on the fourth fucking line. I said, yeah, but you're on the first power play. You're killing penalties. You're going to play 14 minutes a game tonight. And I said, if you play, you're starting off the game. It's not the fourth line. It's the third line, but he wanted to yell at the assistant coach because he's mad at the head coach. And I would say with him, if you have that big a problem, go talk to Lindy. His door's always open. So that was a veteran guy who'd been, and I got really disappointed with.
Yeah, right.
I'm
Right.
talking one little incident. This went on for months, and just immaturity and selfishness, and at the same time, we had a rookie defenseman who had played 15 games in the NHL, and we sat him out. And his behavior after he got sat out was unbelievable. The tantrum he threw, and he wouldn't do the extra work on the ice and stormed off, and well, so then of course I'm going to tell the head coach, and then the head coach goes and yells at him, and again, so those incidents happened. We're starting to happen a little more in the NHL level. And like I said, 97 or 98%.
Yeah, that's always the case, right?
So then you go to junior, and it is the opposite. Like the players are intimidated. I don't raise my voice, I don't yell, but they're intimidated of me when I talk.
Sure.
But they listen, they do anything I ask.
Right.
But then it's so fun to see them work hard and compete and have an effect or an influence on them. So that's the best part of this job.
Yeah.
That's great.
So James, like real quick, when Gresh, you gotta get that. Is that Chloe?
I don't know who it is. I can't see that far.
So one thing I want to know, you walked in the locker room the first time, and Ron Greshner's sitting there. Like, is it kind of intimidating when you first walk in? You see Ron Greshner sitting in the locker room.
Gresh didn't like me when I joined the team.
Really? Here we go.
Gresh never talked to me the first week or so, and then maybe a little longer. So Dave took me under his wing. Tommy was my partner, so he had to talk to me. But Gresh never said anything to me. And then I still remember we were in the airport and we were walking from one connection to the other, and a bunch of us stopped, to get it wasn't McDonald's, but we stopped to get some snack. And I think Gresh was getting a hot dog, and I got something to eat as well. And we were both at one of those stand-up counters, and he had no choice to talk to me. That was the first time he ever talked to me. He was eating a hot dog in the airport.
I don't remember that. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
But I will say this: we had more fun. I know we had fun at the pub. We had fun talking hockey. I think Gresh's personality comes out when he's with the group of guys and talking hockey, like this, or in our monk at Bambino's, or whatever. But we had a lot of fun times. And
we did have fun. That was good. We had a good group of guys.
those are my memories of New York. They really are. Like those are the fun times, and never forget them.
Now, James, I live across the street from across the street there from Mr. True Grit. No, Mr. True Grit.
Oh yeah. No,
And, oh my God. Do you think he's invited me over?
some of those incredible meals.
I'm not inviting. I put his picture on the wall. That's enough.
That's good enough.
I got the picture of James on the wall now.
Yeah, he's made the wall of shame.
Yep.
Keep up there.
Well, James, it's great to see you, and I really mean this very seriously. You were always one of the class acts that I ever played with, and I think all the guys would say the same thing. A real gentleman, and but also you had a lot of fun. But I think you're tied for second now for dropping the F-bomb too on the show, which is kind of.
I thought it was allowed on this show. I was just talking about what other guys.
The context of the stories. Again, the stories needed that context.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah.
Well, it was great to see you. We're going to have you on again. Maybe we'll have get you and Mike Allison on at the same time. We can tell some stories together too. So
I'd love to. Hey, thank you. I love watching you guys.
Right.
I meant every word I said. The impact you guys had on me, and that's the hockey world. Even I hadn't seen Dave in 10 years, and saw him when he got into broadcasting, and
Yeah, it was great.
all times. That's the best thing about hockey and our memories. So thank you guys, and I'll keep watching.
All right. Thanks.
Take care, Chief. Okay.